The Emperor from Star Wars has to be one of the greatest villains ever to grace our screens. Not only were they an incredible character, but the mystique around them made them an especially big draw. The first mention of the Emperor came in A New Hope. They were just mentioned in passing, but there was nothing else said about them. But already this created a huge element of mystique and power around the character, because we knew this person controlled the very powerful empire that we were witnessing, and we knew that they were the leader of the super powerful Darth Vader. Then in the second Star Wars movie, we got to see the Emperor for the first time, but we only saw them talking to Darth Vader via a hologram. They were shrouded in mystery, and this wonderfully creepy music played when we saw them. Then in the third Star Wars movie, we finally got to see the Emperor in the flesh. They had one of the best entries in a movie ever. We saw the powerful and seemingly undefeatable Darth Vader kneeling and bowing as the Emperor's ship landed. Then an old, weak-looking man appeared. He did not look powerful, but you could sense Darth Vader's fear as he talked to the old man. Without seeing any displays of grandiose power, you just knew this person was the ultimate power in the universe. Then many years later, in the prequels, we finally learned the Emperor's name and got to see their backstory. In this video, we are going to tell the story of the boy called Sheev Palpatine, who became the mysterious and powerful Emperor. This is Blarney on the Telly. Please like and subscribe for more movie and TV content. The boy who would eventually become the Emperor was called Sheev Palpatine. He was born into a large family and was force sensitive. The boy was discovered by a very wealthy and powerful businessman called Hego the Mask. Hego had been consumed by the dark side of the Force, and his Sith name was Darth Plagueis. Plagueis had recently murdered his master, and he was now the one Sith master in the universe. Plagueis was on the search for an apprentice when he discovered the boy Sheev Palpatine. He remarked that the boy was very powerful in the dark side of the Force, and he convinced the boy to become his new apprentice. The boy became a Sith apprentice and took the name of Darth Sidious. The boy then showed that he completely embraced the dark side by murdering his entire family. Plagueis began to train the boy in the dark side of the Force, and the boy got more and more powerful and turned into a man. Plagueis shared his experiments with the boy, and together they tried to find a way to cheat death. During their experiments together, they most likely created a life that ended up being Anakin Skywalker. Darth Plagueis had developed a grand plan to win back control of the universe and to undo the Jedi's grip on the galaxy. Plagueis shared this plan with his apprentice. Plagueis' plan was to use his apprentice as a puppet to manipulate the galaxy, and from the shadows he would control the universe through his apprentice. Plagueis began to use his wealth and influence to move his apprentice into the political sector. The apprentice became a powerful and influential politician and began moving up through the political ranks. At the same time, Plagueis and his apprentice began to influence and fund a separatist movement. They gave the separatists enough money to build a powerful droid army. They then funded a clone army to be built for the Republic. They had this army created with a chip in their brain that, when activated, made them serve two Sith masters. The next step was to create a war between the separatists and the Republic. The Sith masters did this by creating tension between the two factions and purposefully distorting communications between them. During this time, the apprentice, who was now Senator Palpatine, began planning to usurp his master and now had desires to become the Sith Master himself. He secretly took on his own powerful apprentice and named him Darth Maul. Palpatine manipulated his way into the position of Chancellor and began to use his influence secretly on the Jedi known as Count Dooku. Palpatine also met the boy called Anakin Skywalker, who most likely was born because of an experiment that Palpatine and Plagueis worked on years ago. And Palpatine started to exert his influence over this boy called Anakin Skywalker. Palpatine then sneaked into his master Darth Plagueis' house and killed him in his sleep, and then he ascended to the position of Sith Master. At the same time, his apprentice Darth Maul is killed by Obi-Wan Kenobi, and for the first time, his plan hits a bump. The loss of Darth Maul was a big blow to Palpatine's plan, and he quickly needed to find a new apprentice that didn't require much training. The new Sith Master quickly used his influence over the Jedi Count Dooku and converted him to the dark side. Count Dooku becomes Palpatine's new apprentice and took the name of Darth Tyrannus. Dooku believes that the Jedi have become corrupt, and together with his new master, they can make a peaceful galaxy. Palpatine sends his new apprentice Count Dooku to some outer systems to lead the separatist droid army. And out in these outer systems, they begin building the first Death Star. So at this point, they then lead the Jedi to believe that Dooku is the Sith Master, who is attempting to seize control of the state. The Clone Wars break out with the Clone Army and the Jedi fighting the droid army. Both armies are secretly being led by Palpatine and funded by Palpatine, and this war is all a ploy to give him more power. And by the way, side note, this sort of shit happens in the world today very regularly. Everything we see is just a game of chess and theatre being played out. But of course, that's a story for another day and on another channel, so let's get back to our story here. So Palpatine is granted emergency powers by the Republic, and he promises to give these powers back as soon as the crisis ends. Palpatine is now the Supreme Chancellor, and through manipulation, he manages to stay in this position much longer than the democratic system allows. At the same time, in the outer systems, work continues on the Death Star. Palpatine then stages a false flag attack on the Republic state. In this attack, Palpatine is kidnapped. This leads the Jedi to be sent on a mission to save Palpatine. During the rescue mission, a seemingly captured Palpatine bears witness to a showdown between Anakin Skywalker and Count Dooku, who all the Jedi think is the Sith Master. They don't realise that he's secretly Palpatine's apprentice. Palpatine cackles with delight internally because he knows that no matter the result of this battle, he will be victorious. If Dooku wins, then one of the most powerful Jedi will have been defeated. If Skywalker wins, then he will push him to give into the darkness, and he will be a step closer to becoming Palpatine's apprentice. Skywalker defeats Dooku, and then Palpatine tells Skywalker to kill Dooku. Skywalker initially doesn't want to do it, but as Palpatine pushes the darkness in him, Skywalker gives into the darkness and decapitates Dooku. Palpatine has long been influencing Anakin Skywalker. He senses the darkness in Anakin and he sees how powerful he is. He knows now that Anakin will be his new apprentice. He also knows that Anakin could grow more powerful than him, and he needs to find a way to control him. But first, he needs to find a way to turn Anakin to the dark side completely. Years earlier, Palpatine sent Anakin on a mission to guard Queen Padme Amidala. He knew there was an attraction between the two of them, and he knew that their love would lead to fear in Anakin. Anakin and Padme secretly got married, and Padme became pregnant. This relationship was against the Jedi Code because Jedis were forbidden to have relationships. Palpatine then began implanting dreams into Anakin's head. Every night in these dreams, he would see Padme dying in childbirth. This created a fear in Anakin, and he sensed that he was seeing visions of the future. He wanted to find a way to save his wife from death. Palpatine told Anakin the story of the tragedy of Darth Sidious the Wise. In this story, he tells Anakin that it is possible to cheat death if you use the power of the dark side. Finally, Palpatine reveals himself to Anakin and tells him that he is a Sith Master. He begs Anakin to join him, and he tells him that together they can bring peace to the galaxy, and together they can save Padme. Anakin doesn't agree to join him though. Anakin runs away and tells the Jedi that Palpatine is the Sith Master, and 4 of the Jedi then go to arrest Palpatine. Palpatine fights the 4 Jedi and kills 3 of them, but the Jedi Mace Windu lasts in the fight against him. While they are fighting, Palpatine senses the conflicted Anakin Skywalker approaching. A defeated Palpatine throws himself to the ground and begins shooting Force lightning at Windu. Windu deflects the lightning back at Palpatine and it deforms his face. When Anakin arrives into the room, he sees a deformed Palpatine begging for his life at the feet of Windu. Anakin says that they must arrest Palpatine, but Windu disagrees. He says they need to kill him now because Palpatine is too dangerous. As Windu goes to strike the final blow, Palpatine's words flashed through Anakin's mind. He heard Palpatine say that the Jedi were evil. He heard Palpatine say that they could bring peace to the galaxy. And most of all, he heard Palpatine say that he could save Padme. Anakin felt the dark side in him. He swung his lightsaber and chopped Windu's hand off. Windu cried with pain, and then the seemingly near-death Palpatine sprung to life. Shooting lightning from his hands into Windu, Palpatine shouted, "Unlimited power." Anakin had now submitted completely to the dark side, and he accepted Palpatine as his master. Palpatine then gave Anakin the new name of Darth Vader. He then sent Darth Vader to kill any Jedi in the Jedi Temple and all the Jedi children. Palpatine then activated the chip in the brain of the clone army and ordered them to kill all the Jedi. Palpatine then went to the Senate, where he tells the Republic that the Jedi have turned against the Republic and committed treason by trying to kill him. To protect the people, he declares that all power needs to be removed from the hands of the Jedi and given to him. To the cheers of the people, he declares the creation of the first galactic empire, and he declares himself as the new emperor. He shuts down the droid army and ends the war. The people of the galaxy believe that the new emperor ended the war and saved them all. They don't realize that he started the war and it was all theater manipulated by him. The new emperor is then confronted by the Jedi Master Yoda. He battles Yoda to a stalemate, and Yoda realizes that the power of this new enemy is too much and he can't defeat the darkness. Yoda retreats into hiding. The new emperor then senses that his new apprentice Darth Vader is in trouble. He goes to the planet Mustafar and discovers that his apprentice has been defeated by Obi-Wan Kenobi. Vader has had most of his limbs cut off and he has been burnt almost to death by the lava fires. He is hideously deformed and he can hardly breathe with his lungs. And by the way, this builds a real hatred in Palpatine for Obi-Wan Kenobi, because at this point he has now defeated two of his apprentices, killing one, which was Darth Maul, and nearly killing Anakin. And he actually even defeats Anakin one more time later on. At this point, Obi-Wan also retreats into hiding. The Emperor then constructs a suit for his apprentice Vader. This suit protects his burnt skin and it gives him a respirator to help Vader breathe. The Emperor also builds in a weakness to Force lightning so his apprentice can never overthrow his master. The Emperor then encases Vader in his suit and then reveals to him that his wife and children died. He tells Vader that he killed them himself in anger. Vader shouts no, and the darkness completely engulfs Vader and he becomes a complete slave to his master. The two of them bask in the glory of their victory and they look out at their new super weapon, the Death Star. The weapon is so powerful it can destroy a whole planet with one strike. The goal of this weapon is to ensure that all planets submit to the might of the Emperor. This is where the prequel trilogy ends. During the years in between the prequel trilogy and the original Star Wars movie, the Emperor continues to assert his dominance over the galaxy, but does it mostly from the shadows. He uses propaganda to become a hero to the people, and the average person thinks that he saved their galaxy. The people that know how evil the Empire is form a rebellion to fight the Empire, but they are having little hope. The Emperor begins using the Death Star to destroy planets that don't bend to his will. He completely dissolves the Galactic Senate, so there is no debate anymore. The Emperor is now the one decision maker in the galaxy. If you don't agree with his word, his army, his apprentice, or his Death Star will force you to. But during these times, the Emperor is overcome with fear. He sees visions of his defeat to a lightsider. He decides to develop a contingency plan. He builds an army in the outer unknown regions of the galaxy, and he begins experimenting with some cloning techniques to create other bodies for him to inhabit. Most of these experiments fail, but they do result in a non-force sensitive clone that has a family and a child called Rey. and they result in him creating some clone bodies that he can inhabit with his essence for a small time before they are slowly eroded by the darkness. And they also result in the creation of a clone that is extremely powerful called Snoke. He uses some loyal Sith cultists to protect and look after this hidden empire, and that's the situation in the universe at the beginning of the original timeline. At this time, the rebels are being hunted by the Empire and they are barely surviving. Then out of nowhere, they have a victory where a young rebel incredibly manages to blow up the Death Star. At the same time, Obi-Wan Kenobi appears on the Death Star and is killed by Darth Vader. But before he is killed, he tells Vader that he will become more powerful than Vader can imagine. The Emperor feels a disturbance in the Force. He senses that they have a new, very powerful light side enemy. He foresees that this is the new light-sider enemy that can defeat him. He also realizes that his ability to predict the future is being diminished for the first time since the fall of the Republic. The light in this new enemy is clouding the darkness of the Emperor. The Emperor sees that he can turn this new light-sider to the dark and make him his new apprentice. But the most disturbing thing he feels is that this new light-sider is the offspring of the Jedi Anakin Skywalker, who of course is now his apprentice Darth Vader. The Emperor is worried because his vision in the darkness is diminished. He has foreseen that this new enemy can defeat him, and he knows that this enemy is from a very powerful bloodline. He tells Darth Vader that this is his offspring. He tells Vader that they will either turn this new light-sider to the dark side or they will kill him. The Emperor sends Vader to find this new light-sider and bring them to him. Vader finds the lightsaber and defeats him in combat, but is unable to capture him. The Emperor begins constructing a new Death Star. He builds this one to look like it is under construction when it is actually completed. Then he leaked the plans of the new Death Star to the rebels. He sees this as an opportunity for him to defeat the rebels for once and for all, and to get a new apprentice. So he travels to the Death Star himself and leaks this information to the rebellion, again to draw them out. The Emperor lands on the Death Star. Vader bows before his master, and the whole army there shake in fear. This is the first time that most of them have been in the presence of the mighty Emperor. Vader is fearful of his master too, but he begins to talk and they discuss their plan. The Emperor tells Vader to find the light-sider and bring them before him. After some time, Vader arrives with the light-sider and brings them to the Emperor's throne room. From there, the Emperor uses the darkness to manipulate the light-sider. The rebels begin their attack on the Death Star, and the Emperor reveals to the light-sider that this was all a part of his plan. He tells the light-sider that the Death Star is fully constructed and fully operational, and he will bear witness to the final defeat of the rebels and the death of his friend. The Emperor can feel the light-sider's anger. The light-sider momentarily gives into the darkness and attempts to kill the Emperor. The Emperor loudly cackles with delight as Darth Vader draws his lightsaber and blocks the light-sider's blow. The Emperor is delighted because he believes no matter the result of a battle between Vader and the light-sider, he will be victorious. If Vader wins, then the final hope for the galaxy will have been defeated. If the light-sider wins, then he will push him to give into the darkness by killing his father, and he will take his father's place as the Emperor's new apprentice. The light-sider defeats Vader and the Emperor tells him good. He tells him to strike down his father and take his place by his side. The Emperor can feel the darkness grow in the light-sider, but then the light-sider realizes that this is the path that his father took before he became Darth Vader. The Emperor can feel the light overcome the darkness in the light-sider. The light-sider throws his weapon to one side and tells the Emperor that he will never join him. The anger engulfs the Emperor. He shoots lightning from his hands. He slowly begins killing the light-sider. He revels in the feeling of torturing the light-sider before he kills him. Then he looks at the pathetic, cowering light-sider lying on the ground, and he tells him that he will deal the final blow and he will die. He lets all the darkness flow through him so he can give him the most powerful strike of lightning possible. The darkness and lightning are so powerful and intoxicating to the Emperor that he loses himself in the action. It is like he has taken some incredible drug. He's so intoxicated by the action that he doesn't feel the light overcoming the darkness in his apprentice Vader. Vader grabs the Emperor and lifts him over to a bridge. The Emperor is still so engulfed by the darkness, he struggles to regain control of himself. He shoots lightning back into Vader to kill him. Vader throws him off the bridge, and as the Emperor falls from the bridge, he regains control of himself. He realizes he is falling to his death. He uses a skill that he learned from his former master, Darth Plagueis. He manages to project his essence across the galaxy to the outer regions and into the body of one of his clones. His natural body falls to its death, and his former apprentice Vader dies. The rebels defeat the Empire and destroy the Death Star. The galaxy celebrates, the Empire is no more, and a new republic is born. Palpatine is the Emperor no more. His natural body has been destroyed, and now he is trapped in a rotting clone body that can't hold his darkness. The former Emperor waits in the shadows and watches for his opportunity to take his revenge on the galaxy. He knows that he needs to find a powerful, force-sensitive body that he can inhabit. This body needs to be of the same blood as him. He also needs another powerful apprentice to aid him in his new empire. He watches over time and he sees the birth of Han Solo and Leia Organa's child, Ben Solo. He realizes this child can be his new apprentice, and he begins speaking in the child's mind. He also realizes that his non-force sensitive clone had a force sensitive child called Rey. Since this child is his bloodline, he realizes that he can inhabit Rey as his new body. Palpatine sends his other clone Snoke and some of his army to create an army called the First Order to battle the New Republic. Snoke takes and manipulated Ben Solo as his new apprentice, and Palpatine waits for the day that Snoke will be defeated by Solo. After several years, Ben Solo kills Snoke, and at that point, Palpatine calls Ben to him. He then reveals himself to the galaxy, and then one final battle happens. Palpatine kills Ben, Rey kills Palpatine, and that's the end of his story. I won't lie, it was a pretty crappy ending for such an epic character. It felt like extremely lazy writing by Disney when you think of all the work that went into Palpatine's earlier story and his earlier story arc. But still, the story of Palpatine and his rise and fall as Emperor is an incredible story. I think he is definitely the most powerful character in all of Star Wars in terms of how he fulfilled his potential, and ironically, his biggest problems were his own doing. Reading between the lines, it seems that Darth Plagueis and Palpatine's experiments with the Force led to the birth of Anakin Skywalker. This hasn't been 100% confirmed, but it is strongly implied in the Star Wars story. So then, the birth of Anakin Skywalker obviously led to the birth of Luke and Leia Skywalker. And Luke and Anakin eventually defeated Palpatine and ended his empire. Then Ben Solo was the child of Anakin's other child Leia, so Leia or Ben wouldn't have existed also if it wasn't for Palpatine. And then Rey was the offspring of one of Palpatine's failed clones who went on to live a normal life in the galaxy. And both Rey and Ben worked together to defeat and kill Palpatine for once and for all. And also, Palpatine's experiments led to an incredibly powerful Darksider in the form of Snoke. So if you think about it, Anakin, Luke, Leia, Ben, Rey, or Snoke would all have not existed only for Palpatine. And I guess this is how the Force found balance in the story. Palpatine was so powerful in the darkness that his darkness had to be balanced by some of these other characters. Anyway, as we all know, those Disney Star Wars movies were awful. Click on the video on screen to see why they were so bad.